Hello, hello, hello. Kimberly here, and I am very excited to bring you inspired thoughts for today. What I feel inspired to talk about today is what I consider the most important choice you'll ever make. The most important choice that we make all day, every day, throughout our entire life experience. And you might be thinking, well, we make lots of important choices throughout our life experience, day in and day out, but um, what I'm talking about today references everything, every topic you could imagine, every situation, scenario, challenge you could find yourself in. There's a particular choice that we get to make. And this bubbled up for me because this past Saturday, I led a workshop called The Inspired Life. And it was a workshop for women. And a group of women came together and we had the conversation around what it means to live an inspired life. And you've probably heard me describe that before as living your life from the inside out. You know, instead of moving through the day, reacting to the scenarios, the circumstances around you, choosing to live from the inside out and bringing that into your life. Looks like we have Jennifer on. Hello. Daniel, good to see you. Hello, beautiful Jennifer. And hello, Jonathan. Happy Thursday to you. Having a fantastic day. Yeah, it's a beautiful day here in California. It's going to be, I won't rub it in too much, but it's going to be in the upper 60s, close to 70. And sun, as you can see in the background, is shining down already. So we're so blessed to be here for sure. But what has bubbled up for me from leading the workshop this past Saturday, one of the things we did in the very beginning was we kind of went around the room and everyone introduced themselves, just their first name, where they were from, and why they chose to spend the afternoon in this workshop, talking about living an inspired life. And one beautiful attendee, I will never forget her response, because she said, well, quite honestly, and she's one of the moms at my son's school, so I see her every day when, you know, taking Tyler to school and such, and we cross paths and sometimes we walk back to the car together. Her name is Kim also. And so she showed up at the workshop, and when it was her turn to introduce herself and why she came, she said, you know, well, my name is Kim, and my daughter and Kimberly's son go to the same school, and I just thought this might be a good opportunity to find out why she's always so damn happy. She's like, I fear if I come to this workshop, maybe I can understand why she's never sad, that she's always so happy, and I can kind of figure that out for myself as well. And while, you know, in the moment, it felt and I know was introduced as a compliment, it really got me thinking, because, you know, choosing to live your life from the inside out, to be inspired throughout your day, isn't about being happy 100% of the time. And it doesn't mean that you don't go through the same contrast, and my word contrast, if you haven't heard me talk about it before, represents everything from the most mundane, like getting stuck in traffic or having a flat tire, to the most traumatic of challenges that life may throw at you, like the loss of a loved one. It's all contrast. And if you're in the human experience, you're going to face contrast. It just is what it is. And so what I want to talk about today, the most important choice you will ever make, is your perspective. Because as you're moving through the contrast, and even as you're moving through your life, as things are, you know, going remarkably well, the perspective that you choose to put on the forefront of your experience will ultimately determine the life experience that you have. And I wanted to bring back, I know I've talked about it before, but the paradoxical truth. There are many paradoxical truths out there, and paradoxical just means that there are two statements that seem to conflict with each other, but they're both true. And so there's a paradoxical truth around this topic. We could sit in a room and have a conversation for 5 minutes and easily come up with a dozen reasons, a dozen factual stories that would prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this world we live in is a scary, hateful, violent, and mean place. That's true. That is true. But then we could just as easily take the next 5 minutes and start sharing and easily come up with a dozen stories, facts, factual instances, local stories, global stories, that would prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the world is a kind, generous, warm, and loving place. That is true. And that's why it's a paradoxical truth. So if both of those statements are true, the world is scary, mean, violent, the world is kind, loving, generous. If both those statements are true, then what matters is, are you going to choose to put on the forefront of your experience? That will make all the difference in the world. And so the couple of things I've learned over the last many years of just diving into different wisdom traditions and spirituality and personal development and the study of happiness and how our brain works and such, there's really two aspects that have helped me tremendously. One being the idea of reframing. And reframing is just about taking a look at whatever challenge you're in, whatever situation, whatever contrast, and then consciously choosing to perhaps see it a different way. So to just get super real for a couple of minutes, if you guys are okay with that, I am going to try really hard not to cry, but I am making no promises. I'm not happy all the time. That's just not the life experience. What is true for me, though, is I tend to come back to a happy place pretty quickly because I've learned the art of reframing and choosing my perspective, which we'll come back to and talk about again. But I go through contrast just like everybody else. I am in the process of a divorce. It has been almost a year, and it looks like we will finally be wrapping it up as we go into the new year in January 2019. It has been very challenging. There have been many, many feelings that I've had to walk through. I've had to walk through grief and anger and sorrow, sadness, loss. I've had to walk through that feeling of shame that I had committed to this thing, and at some point the issues were just irreconcilable and I couldn't fix it. And I had to walk through shame associated with that. I had to walk through so much guilt with regards to our now 6-year-old son. Of course, not wanting us to separate and to live in 2 houses, of course not. And feeling the guilt as he had to walk through his own pain associated with the situation. This Thursday here, this is the last Thursday that I'm going to be staying in this house. So for the second time in 2 months, second time in 6 months, it's actually 5 months, I have to move Tyler and I again. And so next Thursday is our moving day. And just unforeseen circumstances, we're having to pack everything up and move again. And I've had to move through the overwhelm. Moving is always challenging. The stress and the overwhelm that comes with that. The fear of, things, it's big. This kind of contrast in life is always big. We're here in the holiday season, and I am desperately missing my big brother, who was my very best friend. I miss him every holiday season. I miss him every season of every year. And every year I move through that feeling of him no longer being here. Our father also passed, so it's all part of the human experience. I am just as much neck deep in this human experience as everyone else. And I've had people more than once make the comments, like what Kim so beautifully shared last Saturday that I seem to be happy all the time. And I will say that I do live in a state of appreciation the vast majority of the time. And it's because I've learned how to move through contrast more quickly. I have learned those two elements that I mentioned. There's reframing and choosing your perspective. And that choosing your perspective, it really is. I mean, it's what causes you to be willing to reframe. So it really is the most important choice you will ever make. So reframing first, the concept of reframing. Looks like Jennifer's made a note. Yes, yes, yes. This is what I was thinking on my run today. As my siblings are being so judgmental to my mom who's losing her memory. Oh, I'm so sorry. Right now, all I keep thinking is that she's putting down a darn good fight to live with joy and hope. Perspective is always a choice. Thank you, Kimberly. I love you too, Jennifer. Thank you. So reframing. So this is one thing that I've learned over the many years that has made a huge difference for me, especially when you're amidst contrast. So whatever it is, whether it is having to step out of a relationship or dealing with the loss of someone you love or making a big job change or having to pack up and move or anything that could be certainly viewed as painful or challenging. Reframing is about taking a step back, taking a couple of deep breaths, and instead of saying, oh my gosh, this is awful, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to get to the other side of this? You reframe it to say, okay, I am going to move through this. What can I learn from it? How can I, in some way, shape, or form, grow from this experience? How can I become stronger? How can I become more compassionate, more loving? How can I, through this experience, as difficult as it feels, how can I move through this experience and learn from it, grow from it in a way that will allow me to be more of who I'm meant to be in this life? Because what I can promise you is that every single life experience you ever have will give you an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become more of who you really are. And at the end of the day, that's what you came here to do. And sometimes that can be the hardest thing to embrace because we're afraid to step into the light of who we authentically are for fear of being judged and not accepted, not validated on some level. But the last thing you want is to get to the end of your life and look back and think, I wasn't true to myself. I wasn't who I really am. And so with every bit of contrast you find yourself having to move through, if you can, instead of getting all wrapped up in the minutia of it, the details of it, the ill feelings that come with it, instead, how can I grow from this? What can I learn from this? What is the lesson that I can take from whatever this is I'm going through? It was definitely what pulled me out the other side when I did lose my brother. And he was way too young, only 44. And I found myself in such a tunnel. I mean, like a black tunnel. At the time, it felt like a black hole. Like there was no other end to even get to. I was very lost. And at one stage of grief, I felt like I didn't know how to get back up. I didn't know how to get out of the tunnel. And then as time passed, I realized, okay, it is not a black hole. It is a tunnel. I'm going to get out the other side. And then I went through this stage of fear of like, okay, now I realize I'm moving through this and I'm going to come out the other side and I am still alive. I still have this life to live. However, I'm not sure how, like I'm in so much pain from this loss. I'm not sure how I'm going to come out the other side. Am I going to be angry that I felt like my brother was taken from me too soon? Am I going to be cynical? Am I going to be, less compassionate, less willing to be close to other people for fear I may lose them? I mean, all the different things that can and have happened based on people suffering loss. And then as I came through that and got to, let's call it the end of the tunnel, it came to me so quickly, like a ton of bricks, as they say. It was so clear that I get to choose. Yes, I went through this challenging loss, I'm on the other side of it, or starting to get to the other side of it. I've ridden the waves of grief, and I've celebrated the life that I got to share with him. I have grieved the loss of having him physically here, and now I'm coming out the other side, and I realized I get to choose. I get to choose if I am going to be angry, sad, cynical, or stronger, more loving, more compassionate for having gone through it. So whatever it is you might be going through or have gone through or will go through, just know that you have the opportunity to look it square on and feel the feelings of it for sure, but also know that you can reframe it. Instead of it being this awful thing that's happening to you, it can actually be something that's happening for you. Because even if you can think of no possible good reason for something to have happened, good can always come from anything and everything. The greatest loss, the greatest betrayal, the greatest disappointment, the greatest pain. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but good can come from it. Whether it is because you are now more wise, more compassionate, more loving, more understanding now, because now you have more understanding and can help others who are going to be going through what you went through. It's just reframing, and it does take practice, but I've practiced it, I've worked on it, and now I think it's just a skill. It's a skill like any other skill in life that we can be willing to implement, and then be willing to practice until we get better and better at it. And so I've just become really good at reframing. And so when I look at my divorce, I realize I can choose to say, this is so sad, and my son is hurting because of it and would love for us to be back together. And there's the grief over the loss of this best friend relationship, and I'm angry that it had to go down this way. And I could go there easily and would be justified, and everyone would say, yeah, I get it, absolutely, you have a right to feel that way. But is it going to serve me? And is it going to serve my son? Because the other option is I can choose to instead be grateful, and which I am so grateful. I am so grateful for the relationship that I had with my soon-to-be ex-husband. We had so many fun times together. We traveled the world together. We have built so many wonderful programs and projects together. We've grown so much together and from each other. And above all else, we have the gift of this beautiful little boy that we brought into the world that will keep us connected forever. And that's where I choose to put my focus. So this is where we get to, that biggest choice. The most important choice you'll make is your perspective. So we have this skill of reframing, but there is no such thing as reframing without being willing to shift your perspective, to choose to see things differently than you might kind of in your guttural sense see them. So it really is about taking a step back, taking some deep breaths to make sure you're connecting to who you really are. And when you move forward from that place, you'll almost always naturally choose the perspective that is more loving, more kind, both to you and to the world around you, and is always more positive and feels better. And most of all, you will choose the perspective that will serve you, the perspective that will serve you in a beautiful way. There was a couple other comments. Oh my gosh, I've totally missed it. Oh, Punita, it's good to see you. Oh, no worries. Oh, you're very sweet. Thank you. Punita has been away, but she's back. So I'm very glad to see you here. Brenda is on. Thank you very much. Yeah, there's so much knowledge and wisdom to be gained within all the highs and lows of life. You're so right. Much love to you as well. And so back to the choosing perspective. In any situation you find yourself in, you get to choose what perspective you're going to experience it through. And it can be from what the Course in Miracles would say, the perspective of love or the perspective of fear. And I just choose to, with everything I have, consciously make every effort to be a presence of love. Because I know it's what will serve me most. It is what will benefit me and those around me the most, and it's what will serve the world the most. So choosing your perspective is so incredible. It's so important. It is, the greatest power you will ever have, because no matter what you're going through, you can dwell in the negative of what you're going through, or you can dwell in the possibility of what's to come, even perhaps because of what you went through. And I think about the fact that I'm in the process of having to pack up and move again, and I feel like I just did it like a week ago. I could certainly get all my focus wrapped up in, how am I going to find the time to get everything packed up? I just finished unpacking and getting things hung on the wall. I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed. There's not enough hours in the day. I could totally go down that path with the best of them. I choose not to. Instead, I'm choosing to say, you know what? Every big change in your life, every big change in my life represents an opportunity for new possibilities, for a new chapter, as is often said. So as Tyler and I lay our heads down on our beds in our new house next week, it is going to be the first night of a new chapter. And we'll make new memories in this new home. And at the end of the day, oh my gosh, we still have a wonderful home in Southern California, Orange County, one of the most desirable places to live on the planet, if you ask me. I know it's subjective, but for me, one of the most desirable places to live on the planet. We have a roof over our head. We have furniture. We have food. Like, there's nothing to be sad about. There's nothing to be stressed out about. We often lose sight of how much we have to appreciate, and all the blessings that we have, because we do get so caught up in the minutia of contrast. So my message for you today is just that. It's we can get just as easily caught up in what I would call the mundane things of contrast, struggles at work, or sitting in traffic, or just being frustrated by the little things that just aren't going right. We can get caught up and balled up in those just as easily as we can get caught up in the big, more traumatic challenges that we move through in life. And in either scenario, really the way forward is the same from my perspective. It is choosing to reframe, choosing to see things differently in a way that will better serve you, and then choosing your perspective. And your perspective is really nothing more than choosing what are you going to focus on? Are you going to focus on the fact that the world can be mean, scary, violent? Or are you going to focus on the fact that the world can be loving and generous and warm and kind? That trickles into every scenario. Are you going to focus on the fact that this is a crappy situation you're having to live through? Or are you going to focus on the blessings you still have around you, and what it is that you may have to learn and gain from anything that you're moving through? So where you choose to focus your thoughts, that's where you're going to focus your energy. And whatever you focus your energy on, that's what's going to grow. That's what's going to become more of your life experience. So my encouragement for you today, my invitation to you today, is to keep your focus on your blessings, even the blessings that come out of the contrast. And the blessings can be evolution and growth and learning, deeper levels of wisdom and kindness and compassion and love. Keep your focus on that. That will create the perspective that will allow you to continue to see this life in the beauty that it has to offer. And it's going to feel good, and it only feels so good because it means you're in alignment with who you really are. And when you focus on the negative, whether it's, how someone betrayed you, or something didn't go your way, or something that you're having to move through that you don't think is fair, if you're focusing on that, the reason that you don't feel good, the reason you have a pit in the bottom of your stomach and your heart hurts, it's because it's not who you really are. You're not aligned with who you really are to focus on the negative. The reason focusing on the positive feels so good is because now you're in tune with who you really are at your essence, at your core. So that is the invitation. to always choose the perspective through whatever it is you're experiencing, the perspective that will best serve you in the most positive way. So with that, I am sending you so much love, but I need to go pack and I'm going to go enjoy it. So be preparing for our next chapter. So thank you so much. Thank you for the comments. Please add any additional comments and keep the conversation going. And feel free to share. I often get messages, can I share this video? And of course, you can always share anything that keeps these positive conversations going. By all means, it's all out there for you. So any questions, let me know. I'll take a break and take a look at comments later. And I just wish you the most wonderful, fabulous day in this beautiful week that we've been gifted. Sending you much, much love. Take care.